What's up guys, it's Pliskin here, and I just got Titanfall 2 and holy shit, this game is amazing. And I haven't really gotten far enough into it to do a full review, so that's not what this is. Basically what I'm doing here today is just showing you guys something I like and giving you my first impressions of it. So if you're that person like me who has constantly heard about how great this game is but has never touched it, I hope that I can be the one to finally push you a little further to give this game a try. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now in regards to gameplay, I was never really into the wall running / jetpack shooters like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Halo 5, stuff like that just kind of turned me off. But there's something about the gameplay here in Titanfall 2 that just feels so natural. Whereas a lot of games went in this direction to try to modernize themselves or give something fresh, Titanfall 2 really is its own thing and owns this sort of jumping around and shooting. And the reason why I think this works so well is because the jumping around, jetpacking, and wall running isn't just there to complement the shooting, which don't get me wrong, it does. It's there to make platforming fun. Like, I've never really played a game where it's split into shooting and platforming, and the platforming is just as fun as the shooting. Now, let me put it this way. You can play Titanfall 2 just like COD or any other shooter where you take cover, you use different weapons to deal with different situations, and you move up slowly, taking out the enemies as you go along. But then as you get better at the game, you learn how to shoot while constantly on the move. I mean, the game throws enemies at you that really push you to move. For example, you have these little spider robots that crawl up to you and blow up, and while, yeah, you can deal with them by just running away, shooting at them, and going to the next piece of cover, you can tell the difference between someone who's just started playing and an expert by seeing how well they use these wall runs to just completely dominate the battlefield. Now, Titanfall 2 is another one of those games where when you watch the opening cinematic and you see the guy doing all this badass stuff, you're gonna be able to do that. It's like Snake Eater more so than Assassin's Creed 3, where I remember everyone was losing their minds in the trailer of Connor running through the battlefield, but then when they played the game, it really wasn't that. Nah, this is more, like I said, Metal Gear Solid 3, where everything your character does in the cutscenes or in the promotional material, you can actually do in this game, and it feels fantastic. Like jumping up on the wall and doing like a double jump to get right behind enemies and then snap one of their necks, throw a grenade, then jump off the railing, zoom around to a bunch of other enemies, shoot them all down while those older enemies are all blowing up is a great feeling, and it really doesn't get old. The combat loop in Titanfall 2 when you're playing as the pilot, which is when it's just you and wall running, is amazing. There's also a lot of exploration to do in the campaign, which is great because you get all these little segments in which you can use the wall running and the jumping and the platforming to really explore and see how far you can push the limits. Like, there's been a lot of times where I've just been like, I wonder if I can go over there. I wonder if that jump will get me killed. Well, let me try it out. And 9 times out of 10, you can make that jump. You can go to that part of the map where it seems like there would be an invisible barrier. It's like the sky is the limit, and as long as you know what you're doing and you follow the base rules of the wall running and jumping, you're gonna have a great time. And this game does reward you for exploration with these little helmets and stuff. So I'm not sure what they do yet, but it's cool. But before I go too far into the campaign, I need to talk about the Titan gameplay. I mean, the game's called Titanfall, so you'd expect these Titans to be fun to play as, and they fucking are. It feels like the opposite of when you're playing as the pilot. Like, as the pilot, you're swift, you're fast, you're agile, you're graceful, everything's about snappy movement, whereas when you're in the Titan, you really feel kind of like the big daddies in Bioshock 2 when you're playing Subject Delta, where you're big, you're heavy, and you're here to just fuck shit up. And it's more about like managing your positioning rather than zipping across the map. So you can't really jump while you're in a Titan, you can just dash in certain directions to dodge attacks. It feels more like a traditional action game in that sense, where it's a matter of dodging, hitting, dodging again, kind of like managing stamina or whatever in a Dark Souls fight. It's fun, and it has a bunch of different like loadouts for your Titan, so when you're playing through the campaign, everything feels fresh, and then the multiplayer, as you unlock new stuff, it's just more and more fun toys to play with. So yeah, the Titan gameplay is pretty fucking solid, and so is the pilot gameplay. you get a really good balance of, on the one hand, when you're playing as the pilot, being really fast, agile, like this weird kind of rogue class character. But then when you're playing as the Titan, you get this really strong feeling of, I am the walking tank. It's like being inside of a fucking Metal Gear. It's awesome, and the fact that this game offers both is pretty fucking cool. Now, in regards to campaign structure, it's pretty much split up into exploration, pilot combat, Titan combat, and then a boss fight at the end. Now, the maps are very varied, like you're either searching a shipwreck, going around trying to rebuild your Titan with parts that you find, sneaking around the jungle, running across cliffs and stuff like that, or you're in like a weird sewage facility where you're fighting through these weird grinding hallways infested with really tough robots to take down. It's well paced and the environments are very unique from one another. The enemy variety is a little lackluster. I mentioned before the spider type enemies. You have basic COD type enemies which just sit in cover and then try to shoot you. You have some shielded enemies. You have like these robot enemies that are kind of like the droids from Star Wars where they take a lot more and you really have to make sure they're dead because just taking off their legs means they're going to crawl at you and try to kill you. So like there's enough variety there to justify trying new things and jumping around all these areas, but it's nothing like Combat Evolved where every enemy requires a completely different strategy. Same thing could be said for the weapon variety. It's very Call of Duty in the sense that you have a lot of repeats of the same gun. It's just one gun does what that other gun does better. So the guns are kind of boring, but that's honestly just me nitpicking. They're interesting enough to keep you entertained as you're zipping around the map or crushing things as your Titan. Also, the campaign does this really cool thing where at random intervals during combat or exploration, your Titan will talk to you and you'll get this very brief prompt to respond in two very different basic responses. It's not in-depth like Mass Effect or anything like that, but it's just enough there to make you feel like you're really interacting with this Titan and you and this Titan are working together like a team. And that's pretty fucking cool because it feels organic because it shows up in gameplay and doesn't make a big deal about these dialogue options. If it did make a big deal about it, then I'd give it more shit because it's really not that fleshed out, but in this case here, it doesn't need to be. Last but not least, we have boss fights. Now, I feel almost crazy saying this, but a AAA game, a AAA shooter featuring good boss fights within like the 2010s is almost like non-existent. So the fact that Titanfall 2 offers really fun boss fights, mech-to-mech combat, which with each boss having their own personality and their own like unique moveset is amazing. For example, the first one I fought, Ash, is this like crazy mercenary dude who comes at you with area of effect ordnance and like explosive and fire type damage, so you have to just avoid the areas that he like bombs or lights on fire, keep your distance, and eventually you'll chew him down. But then later bosses have completely different forms of combat, and it really throws a wrench in your gameplay, and you have to just constantly adjust and try new strategies, and in games, that's always a good thing. So the boss fights are amazing, and the fact that this game even has boss fights is just so fucking cool. Last but not least, we have the multiplayer component. Now, I was playing with the starter level shit, so normally that means I'm gonna have to get my shit kicked in for the first like 10 hours of gameplay. But no, I was actually able to compete. I took players down, I got in a Titan, I felt like I was contributing to my team. So Titanfall 2 balances the game where even if you're using lower level weapons, you're still in the gameplay. No one feels left out and it doesn't feel like an unbalanced mess. Unlike another multiplayer game that's really popular right now. Yikes. But anyways, Titanfall 2 is amazingly balanced when it comes to multiplayer. The maps are cool, everyone's zipping around or in their Titans, you can tell who's really good, you can tell who's just starting, but everyone is still playing, if that makes any sense. Anyways, like again, I just started off so I don't have any of the cool customization options, but I've seen them there, it's really in depth, and it seems worth getting invested into. So yeah, it gets my approval for the multiplayer as well. Now again, I'm not here to do an in-depth analysis of this game. After all, I just started playing it. This is just my first impression telling you that it's really fucking fun. The marriage between wall running, mech combat, interesting boss fights, and a balanced multiplayer is too good to be true, and I don't understand how this game was not a bigger deal when it came out. So, with that being said, I'm Pliskin. Titanfall 2 definitely has my recommendation. I definitely want you to go out and try it. If you have Xbox and you have Game Pass, download it. If you have PlayStation 4, you should be able to pick it up as a hard copy for cheap right now. I'm pretty sure you can get it on PC, but either way, this game is worth your time. If not just like 5 minutes for you to try it out. Anyways guys, this has been Pliskin. I'll stop gushing. Over and out.